I'm really
Yeah.
so happy that you're here. I would like to
Well,
say I
thank
never
you for
thought
having
about.
me.
Thank you so much. You're welcome. I never thought about. Yeah, I have been wanting to have a conversation with you, but I've never thought about having will I say in a bigger way, right? So, but it's an honor to do this with you.
Mm.
Personally, I don't take it for granted. It's something that I really so much appreciate a lot, right?
Yeah.
Okay, today's conversation is quite lively and so much important to me because I believe what we're going to talk about today has a lot to do with our lifestyle, has a lot to do with who we are, have a lot to do with our identity, have a lot to do with everything that has to do with individuals and the continent. So wherever we find ourselves
Yeah.
in this world, what gives us that identity of our culture? And like I said to you, behind the camera, that no matter where you are in life, no matter where you go, if you see, I'm going to use Nigeria as a case study because every conversation I'm having with my guest, my pinpoint is Nigeria as a case study because this is where you are. And if you look very
Mm.
closely, whatever happens in Nigeria also happens in other countries in Africa. So there are
Mhm.
similar traits
Mhm.
that you find in every country in Africa. So Nigeria is more like a case study that can define okay, what and what can we be able to do right here and also use it to other neighboring countries, other countries in Africa. So one thing here affects you is that wherever you find, like in Nigeria, we have quite three major tribes, right? Igbo, the Hausa, and the Yoruba, right? Even in the Igbo, there are different cultures. No matter where, I know if you wait to come to Igbo land, you see different cultures because of their tribes and all of that. If you go, I don't know much about Yoruba because I've not really traveled to Yoruba land. It's just once that I've been there. So I cannot really tell what are the cultures are. I don't can't tell what are the cultures of the outside, right? But because I'm an Igbo person and because of what I've seen, even Igbo, there are different cultures in every community. Where I'm from, there is a culture that makes up who you are. Where you're from, there's also a culture that makes who you are. So even in that small part of community we find ourselves, there are also different people from different language. And one thing I found out is that despite the fact we are in the same nation, right? Like Nigeria is a diverse community, like I would say, with diverse culture, diverse languages, no matter how big it is. We are over 200 million people on, if I'm correct, 200 million people in Nigeria. And despite the fact how large
Yeah.
we are diverse in cultures, we are diverse in languages. The way I even the way I
Yes.
speak, my own language, my own dialect, there are different things that they are not even in the same community with other person from our community. These are things that
Mhm.
when you look at it, it becomes quite difficult for us to build a united nation in United Africa. And I believe that when
Yeah.
cultures are one of the that drives me every moment and behind this or doing what I'm doing today is because I'm one
Mm.
person that believes no matter the diversity of our culture, right? No matter how much our languages
Yeah.
might differ, there's something that brings us together. Something that brings
Mhm.
us as one, no matter how much we are as a person. I might be from
Yes.
a particular place, you might be from a particular place. There's one thing I know that makes every culture common, no matter the diversity and languages. So this is what we're going to talk about. But before we start, I don't really be the one to introduce my guest. Why? Not because it's not something I should do. Yes,
Okay.
no, it's not something that I should do. But I believe I believe that I can't really speak more of who you are for my own end, right? You know who you are, right? So I want the
Yes.
community to know, and those who will be watching this video later when it's being uploaded on, of course, the
Yes.
platforms, to really get to know who you are. And I know the last talk of us that I've had with my guest, I forgot to do the usual I would do at the end of this meeting. I didn't ask them to share where people can connect them to their social media handles were. So I believe that at the end of this session, people who will listen to you will love to connect with you. So I believe in one thing. I believe in community.
Yes.
Something is making a bit sound again. I don't know where it's coming from. You
I
can
think
stop.
it's my fun. Yes, it's
Okay.
the fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I believe that we are all one, no matter what we're doing. Like I said in
Yeah.
my previous meeting with my guests, that we all have something I call individual vision. And that what makes us
Mm-hmm.
diverse as a person. When we come to a point whereby we have an not inclusive vision, like a vision that has to do with one person, a vision that we are looking just like America has American dream. Like I said to her, every leader that steps into power know what America should be by the end of the tenure.
Yeah.
They know what they are building.
Mm-hmm.
They know what is their goal and their vision. No matter if your goal is quite big,
Yes.
it was align itself towards that American dream. And when you come down to Africa and Nigeria as a nation, you see that we don't have something that will say, okay, this is where Africa is going. Just like now, by early next year, we have another period of election whereby we are going to elect leaders. And you ask yourself, these guys are coming with their own vision, what they want to do at the end of the 4 years in power. Another person will come up in power. I want to do this. I want to do this. So you feel like everybody has quite individualistic purpose and goals, right? So I believe what we are doing is not something that has to do with one. It's not my vision. Like I always tell myself, this is a this is a collect not collect, it's a collective vision. I have to do with everybody. I haven't have a to collaborate with anybody. I can't collaborate because this is not my vision. This is what everyone can see and can buy into, right? We want a place where Africa can actually have where they are going. This is where is Africa heading
Mm-hmm.
to. No matter the nation I'm coming from, no matter where I am, I know this is where Africa should be
Yeah, I'm
by the end
headed.
of a certain period
Yes.
of time, right?
Yes.
So I really want us to. Whenever I have opportunity to talk to some person that Africa cannot work if you and I don't put our heads together. If you and I don't understand that their responsibility, right?
There's no
If you don't
unit.
understand that,
Yes.
yeah, if you and I don't know that there is something that we have, like you have a part to play. That particular thing always rings in my head. I have a part to play. I have a part to play. I have a part to play.
Mm-hmm.
And this for me is my own quota, my own responsibility to play that part which I should play. You get Africa
Yes.
is like they always say, for us to build Africa is us that will build Africa. It's not other people going to build Africa. If you look at men who build
Everybody
America,
comes
they are all
to put in.
yeah. If you look at men who build America, you see that these guys are from America. They didn't solve their power or their resources from other nations of the world. Right? These are guys who understand their responsibility to make America great. And they paid attention to it. America has become the world power today because of these guys. Tech they've set in place over the years have been what is sustaining America, right? So
True.
if you look at Singapore, Singapore was built by Singaporeans, right? These are guys who understand this is our responsibility. And I say,
Mm-hmm.
there's no nation who has built itself outside the people. The people are the ones who have the responsibility to build their nation and the continent. So I believe that
Like
both of us
beyond the government. beyond the
Yeah.
government, it's like the
Yeah.
people, because they are the ones that understand like the needs, the pain points you get. So if they're able
Yeah.
to put their heads together and everybody is pouring into the ocean or taking a scoop of like the ocean into the bucket, before you know it will get filled. Like if it's just one person, oh,
Exactly.
let's leave it to our leaders. How many leaders and how many times are they going to have to do the rounds of taking like a spoon to cook water and then be able, like from the ocean, to be able to fill the bucket? But if there's a crowd of people
Yeah.
that is doing it, one is that the person that is doing the bulk of the work, who is like at the head, at the top, doesn't feel that much of the weight and the pressure because every other unit is contributing. As opposed to
Yeah.
when you leave the dream for one man and you're expecting to like somehow find a way to get us from point A to point B,
But
because
that's true.
he's just seeing one angle. He's not going to be able to see the different angles of, oh, how I could make this thing better. But somebody else can come in and say,
Yeah.
you know what? How about we use cup or a bowl? How about we connect a pipe and devise a machine that is able to take this thing from the ocean to our household? Now that's another
Yeah.
man's point of view. And whichever team that brings in their knowledge is an improvement to the system. And at the end of the day, everybody
Yeah.
has running water in the community. Yes, as opposed
Yeah.
to just one person. So I feel like if we're going to have the Africa that we want, it is that every individual in their own corner starts to understand that I'm a change maker wherever I am, and I need to contribute to the conversation that is happening. I need to contribute to the change, regardless of how I'm contributing, regardless of how little or how big I am contributing. There is still a change that is being made from that little section or from that little seed that I get planted, that gets planted in it. So I think it's very important, and you're doing a really good job by, providing a platform for us to have this conversation.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful. Okay, I think we are going to start right now. So, just a
Okay.
brief info about who you are, so that people can get to know what you do, and if they want to connect, you can actually connect. But that would be, you say you actually
Okay.
see after now. You're supposed to send your the link to your what's it called again, social media, so that I can put it out there.
Media
Who wants
pages.
to follow you, follow you. Yeah. So
Okay.
I actually didn't do the previous ones. I want to do this one. Okay. Happy tell us who you are, man.
Okay.
I want to know you. We want to know you. We want to get to know you.
Okay. Well, this is a very strange mix because I'm usually used to like the host like just introduces, so they take it off like our hands, like do like the introduction. But okay, so my name is Idekwe Deborah, and I go by Chisom because I'm an Igbo girl, so I identify very well with my culture. And
Okay.
I'm a lawyer primarily. I'm a lawyer, a law graduate from Abia State University. I'm a Nigerian, and I work with communications and marketing for non-governmental organizations and beauty brands. Along the side, too, I'm a researcher who uses my writing to, air opinion on like change making, primarily when it comes to African culture and how we can make changes by just airing my views, my thought process through research, through writing academic articles. Yes, that is primarily what I do in summary. I don't know how people like do introductions, but this is like brief summarized introduction about me. Yeah, somebody could call me a scholar, you could call me a communicator, you could call me a brand marketer, all infused in. The goal is that as long as I leave an imprint and a legacy that will be remembered, that has, formed a little bit of impact and change that the generations to come can, point back to as a leading light. Summary.
Wow.
Thank you for
You
having
actually
me.
you also man. You actually wear a different hat. Um, I'm really super grateful that I have you in my tech please. I think I read your last article that you worked on, and it's quite amazing. I've seen a lot of things you do behind the scene, right? I've seen how you tell your stories.
Yeah.
Remember that day? Okay, I know we start that. I told you you're going to start telling your story. content, like con right? So I have seen how much you tell. Yeah, I watch your videos. I know how much you love culture. And that really what got me interested
Yeah.
in bringing on board. Why? Because I believe culture has everything to do with us. Even I know
Yes.
we are all Christians, and there are kingdom
Mm-hmm.
cultures that makes us different from other worlds, right? Like the unbeliever.
Yeah.
So, and whatever we're doing, we're trying to portray that culture because that is the mandate of what we are doing, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and then in Africa, right? Especially let's use Nigeria because we are
Yeah.
Nigerians and we live here. And do you believe that the culture we have right now has a lot to do with where we are as African, as a nation, as a continent, and as a
Truly.
nation Nigeria?
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. I honestly believe that the majority of our problem as like Nigerians most especially, let's leave like Africa because we may not be able to tell what is happening in like other African nations. But primarily for
Mm.
Nigerians, a lot of the problems that we have at the grassroots starts from our culture. Like the culture is messed up. And I know that a lot of people don't identify with culture because of Christianity and religion and the whole essence that has been painted around it. But at the end of the day, your culture is who you are. Your tradition is you at the center. That's what makes you a person. So if you don't have an understanding of that, how can you define yourself as a person? And so
Okay.
you see that there's a lot of gaps that are left because people have just refused, like they've adopted the mindset of inferiority complex and they are okay with like living in another man's tradition, in another man's culture, in another man's way of life, as opposed to getting tapped into the root of who they are. Because if you cannot define yourself as a person, it's easy for you to get sifted by the wind. It's easy for you to,
Mm.
how do you even define yourself in such a way that you now understand yourself, your problems, and be able to air your opinion about this is what I need to do when you have no
Okay.
understanding of yourself? Because there's a saying that I've heard regularly being said in English is interpreted as a man who doesn't know his roots and a man who doesn't know his culture has no identity.
Yeah. A man who
And
doesn't
if
know
you don't have an identity, his roots
a man who doesn't know
and
his
doesn't know
God
his
doesn't
culture
have.
has no identity. You have no firm ground. You have no foundation. So your culture is your foundation. And so for the Nigerian people, I feel like a lot of our problem comes from the fact that we don't have the foundation. We have switched our foundation, or let's say traded our foundation for another man's foundation. And that is why most of the things that they're doing don't work for us.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. You said something that really struck my mind now. He said we don't have a culture, we don't have a foundation, right? And
Yes.
I know I have quite have a talk with persons about what are the what are the culture that have been transferred from one generation to another generation. I think that most of these cultures are
Mhm.
faulty. They're not really as much as quite relevant and cannot produce what we
Mhm.
want as a nation. So he said that
Yes.
we don't have the right foundation. So how do you think? I know,
Mhm.
like I'm saying this because of the diversity of cultures. Like Nigeria is quite diverse, right? And I've heard people say that any nation that is diverse is very hard to build. But when you look at nations that are power and world power, see that they are not so much of different cultures. They are just one culture and one language. But when you bring it down to Africa, Africa is quite numerous with a lot of languages and cultures. Nigeria itself is so much diverse in ethnicity and culture. And the place of foundation, which I know is plays a very big role in who we are. I know this foundation has been taught to me, modeled to me over the years. And most times when I'm trying to look at this foundation, I look at what I want to be, who I want to be. Most times those things does not tally. I will try as much as possible not to mingle myself in some of the foundation that I found faulty and not right. So you said that we don't have the right
Mm.
foundation, right? How do we? Because it's about providing the right platform where we don't just talk about problems, right? We talk about what are the strategies, what are the ways we can focus to make the problem see a solution for us. So
Yeah.
from your observation, I feel that foundations that are not right. How do we begin to build those foundations and make it right? Make the grassroots, prepare the grassroots. Because if you look at our fathers, it's quite difficult for us to correct something at certain foundations. Yeah, it's quite difficult because it has been cultivated in their mind and it has been a system that has been programmed over the years. So if they're going to be programmed, then it's quite very hard to do that because they might not be like, okay, let me bring the story of Israel when they are taken out of Egypt. See that when God took them out of Egypt, right? Because this is still a nation that was brought out from a slavery to a place of freedom. In as much as God tried as
Mhm.
much as possible to bring them out of the place of slavery to their own place of freedom and authority, they still want to go back to the place of slavery. I remember vividly that when they could go to a certain place, they told Moses, can we go back to Egypt where we eat cucumber and garlic? Like imagine God brought you out from a place because he wants you to be better. You still want to go back to where you think that is much that like see. So when you look at the like for the fathers, right? This have been indoctrinated with systems, ideas that have programmed who they are. So how can we bring it down, right? Because I'm more particular about the grassroots because I believe that when we begin to focus on the grassroots, every other thing can be better. Because when the grassroots are good, they begin to mature, begin to nurture them to the point they become a tree. And those trees
Yeah.
can really bear fruit that will do something very meaningful. So how do we begin to get these foundations right based on the things you've seen? Because I believe that you have so much solutions to what Africa needs, right? You have so much answer to the problem we see in Nigeria as a nation. So how do we begin to build the right foundation for others to
Okay.
level on the glory?
Okay. So I would just, for the sake of not sounding very spiritual, for people that are not
Yeah.
identifying as like Christians, I will still go back to the story, and it's because that I believe that the Bible is like a central principle to a
Okay.
lot of things that are happening. And the story of the Israelites from coming from Egypt to the wilderness is literally the
Yeah.
story of Nigeria and Africa that we live in right now. You do know that. Like
Okay.
sometimes I read
Mhm.
that scripture and I see it as a repeat of history that is happening.
Yeah.
And I feel like we can probably cop some lessons from how they found their way back to find our way back. And the first
Yeah.
thing is that we must understand that just because a system is good, and they are doing wonderfully well, like for the Israelites here,
Yeah.
cucumber and garlic is treasure, is gold, as opposed to in this wilderness where we had no food and no water.
Mm.
And so for them, is a superior culture. And having been in
Okay.
that land and spent as much as they spent, they've also forgotten
Yeah.
the part of the things that they had labored for and they were building. Africa
Okay.
and especially Nigeria is a very blessed nation. And I don't think the fact
Yeah.
that we have several languages, Nigeria has about 500 different languages, indigenous languages in our nation. And sometimes, like, I think about the fact that you can walk from one community to another, and before you walk from one end to another, you've heard like 3 different languages being spoken. That's something that is unique.
Yeah.
It's something that is unique, and the fact that we have different cultures is something that I find very unique. But at the end of the day, is that at the center of those different cultures, there's something that we have that makes us us. You get, and I feel like that's where we start from. The country is already bad. It's bad as it is. We've gotten to the point now where we are in the wilderness. We've done a lot of like the cucumber, the garlic, the slavery that we've done, like to pay tribute, like losing ourselves, and we've forgotten what makes us us. So I think the first thing is that education, that reorientation of the mindset, and how we can do that is by learning to speak our own. Learning to speak our own. You get? Which is why I'm a big advocate for language. Like, I think that people just think that language is like a mother tongue, but for me, language is the center of a person's being. Is what identifies that person. Is what centers you. And I always go back to the Tower of Babel and the story in the Bible where, you know, like at some point these people were doing well. And God said, like, he thought about it and said, if I leave these people to keep speaking the same to keep understanding themselves and being able to speak the same language, they will build and finally get to heaven. You can imagine that, like, the wisdom of being able to communicate and understand each other, and these people that are built to this place where they are able to touch God's throne. And God said, what can I do to create a diversion? What can I do to remove this power that these people have? And he said, you know what? Let me take away their language and give them different tongues. And giving them different tongues, what did he bring about? The fact that there was now confusion. And so this person is saying a different thing, this person is saying a different thing, and like there's no understanding, there's no oneness, and you know, like everybody's starting to like do their own thing. There's like diversion, and that common goal in which they're building for has stopped. But if we have a sense of these people identify, and I'm not just saying like language now as like, oh, it's different mother tongues. Yes, it's different, like interpretation is different mother tongues. But if every nation came with what they had at the grassroots to contribute to the bigger picture of an understanding, an Igbo man is speaking for themselves, somebody from TV is speaking, and all of these people are represented with a common understanding and one vision. And the vision is we come to build a Nigeria that our educational system is better, our economic system is better. There's eradication of poverty at a large scale. What can we do? And they all sit at the table to reason with an understanding of their own people, their own tribe, what they have suffered, their own uniqueness. Because when you understand your language and you're actually communicating with your people, you will be able to understand what are the problems that we are facing. What can we do better? And, you know, for a lot of people, I feel like when I talk about language, people just see it as it's just cultural relic. What's the hype of it? What really makes it like different? Why must like what makes our language like stand out? And when I think about it, I think that people just think about it in the local sense of it's just language.
Okay.
I don't think that a lot of people think about it as tools. One of the most undermined tools that you can use. You know, when you talk about how are we building Africa, people will talk about education. People will talk about electricity. People will talk about technology, you know, global like advancement, digital technology. And you are forgetting the tool that powers all of these sectors.
Okay.
Because
No, I'm going to interrupt you a bit here because there are two nations that I'm so particular about, right? One is one of the world powers, and it's China and Korea.
Mhm.
I'm a fan.
Mhm.
I love Korean movies. Pardon me.
Mhm.
And I love Nigerian movies so well. You see that even if you watch,
They are very different,
even if you
Abby.
watch, even ah,
You don't love
network.
Nigerian movies as much as you would love Korean movies because there's something that stands
Yeah,
out in it.
yeah,
There's
that's
an
understandable.
infuse of their culture. Even in modern movies, there's an infuse of their
Yeah,
culture, of their language that makes it
that's
distinct and you're interested. It wires your attention. You want to like know, you want to learn. You see Nigerian
you
people
want to
now
learn
begin
too.
to do and I say you get opa and it's unique because it's like oh this language is posh. Like I need to learn it. And some
So,
people they would deliberately like mute like the English. Like they don't want like they and they don't want the subtitles because they are trying to learn. And
yeah,
it's not just in their language, yeah. They are so
mm,
connected to their language, to their culture that even in the modern day movies that they act, you still see the representation of that respect
yeah.
and
The
older
whole this
person to get.
sorry, yeah, sorry.
There is that respect.
If you watch a Chinese movie, a Korean movie, no matter how modern
Mhm.
they are, they always
Mhm.
they always go back to the roots.
Mhm.
You always look
Mhm.
at one of the things that makes me interested so much in Korean movie is I want to learn their cultures. What and those cultures have become what values they run with. Right? And I
Mhm.
feel like let me just bring down to Nigeria. I feel like
Mhm.
I feel like I'm not proud of this. Most times I won't say I'm ashamed of my culture. I won't say I'm ashamed of but sometimes I'm not proud of it. I don't know, maybe because I've been taught over the years, like, not to value your culture, not to value your listen. So,
You don't see
I
it as
will,
something that is superior, something that deserves to be presented on a global stage. So
thank
you try
you,
to
thank
undermine it.
you, thank you.
Like even
And
speaking
I'm,
Igbo, even speaking
ah,
Igbo is a problem. I remember when I was in
it's,
primary school and I had spoken Igbo in class, and my teacher flogged me. Like
like,
they
you see,
flogged me for speaking Igbo in an Eastern school where they teach Igbo language as part of my curriculum.
so, look at all the things, you be like, these guys are territory not be proud of where we are, not be proud of our roots,
Yeah.
right? It's just now that I'm trying so much to tell myself I'm proud of where I'm coming from. I'm proud of being an African. I'm proud of being an
Mhm.
Nigerian. I'm proud of being an Igbo person. And I see a lot of people like Obi Kubana trying to model who an Igbo person should be, right? There, trying to be proud of their roots. I'm so happy that there are people who are actually doing something that has to do with culture. Because
Yeah.
I can, I know my mom speaks Igbo so well. My dad speaks Igbo so well. When I was growing up, the only thing that was in my head to speak English. And right now, I find it's like the more I speak English, the more my language is taken away from me. I struggle, I'm not as possible, not I struggle yet to speak my language so fluently. I can speak English
Mhm.
so good, right? But to speak my language becomes very difficult for me. Because over time, I feel like it's not necessary, that I cannot use this language to use in a global scale. So when you look at those two nations I told you about, China and Korea, in their movies, in everything they do, if you see a real Korean person, a Chinese, and the English, you will laugh. Like you will laugh. They, they are so good at their language. And not just because of their language. Yes, they speak Chinese, they speak Korean, right? Yet, I feel what makes them quite different is that no matter how much they speak their language, they still have value that are transferable to them. So I believe that we are not so proud of our culture and our business. We are not proud of it. It just this period of just quite a number of time I'm told myself, Victor, you have to be proud of your culture, you have to be proud of your language.
I'm losing you
And
a
whenever I'm
bit.
talking to somebody, okay, can you hear me now?
I think I'm losing you a bit. I don't know if it's from my end or from your own end.
Okay, am I very clear now, right? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you now. I was losing you for a bit.
Okay, okay, sorry about that. So I was saying that it's just
No problem.
recently that I began to really pay attention to my culture, to speaking my language more
Hmm.
often, right? When I'm talking to you, I must try to put in my language. It's not because I want to say it, because I want to be sure that everything I do represents who I am, right? So I know we
Yes.
don't really value our culture, our language. Like what you said, when we're trying to speak Igbo, you have friends actually couldn't speak Igbo because they believe it's not our thing. That we bring a Western language to ourselves and what makes becomes more superior than our own. How
Hmm.
do we begin
And
to
it's not just.
educate people? So you were
I
saying
think that one
something?
of the things, and so I was saying that I think that one of the reasons why it's important is that your language is first of all your primary root, and it's the way that they say like
Okay.
charity begins at home. If you're
Yeah.
already ashamed of your language and your means of communication, by the time you know it,
Mm.
it's not just the language that changes. Every other aspect of your life becomes readopted. Because now you're not just
Okay.
copying the white man's tongue, you are
Mm.
taking his culture, his mannerism, the way he would
Yeah.
view things, the way he would reason, the way he would approach problems, the way he sees community. Because for African
Okay.
people and for the culture that we grew up in, community is something that we hold there. We are like a unit.
Yes.
Nobody makes
Yes.
decision without the other. And because of that oneness, because
Yeah.
of that communication that we have, that mother tongue, it sets us apart that when we are within our people, there's that oneness in us. And one day na ma one day. You get,
Mm.
and because of
Mm.
that singular oneness, there is a way you will not act to your brother or to your sister.
Mm.
And you understand that whatever position I'm giving or whatever light that I see, I'm able to bring in another person.
Mm.
Just like the Igbo apprentice system is when it comes to like entrepreneurship. There are so many people now that are being able to build something, but there's no leading up connection and change to bring this thing
Mm.
back to the grassroots, to bring it back to their homes, because everybody is now
Yes.
thinking about myself. It's now that myself mindset. Like every African, every Nigerian wants to build for themselves. And it's not the problem of the leaders, it's that even at the grassroots, people that have seen the
Mm.
light in one way or the other are not ready to put it together to contribute. And that
Mm.
thing only started because of the fact that our language, the in-depth of who we are, has been taken away. If I went for, yes, has been taken away. If a Chinese man goes to UK, yeah, do you know the
Yeah.
only way that he's able to identify that another Chinese man is there is not by the resemblance of the Chinese man, is that the person
No.
speaks China to him or Chinese
Yes.
to him, and he says, "Oh,
Yeah.
this is my brother." I automatically identify. We are now two in that
Yeah.
community because of the
Yeah.
understanding of our communication, and we are building.
Yeah.
We're saying, "Okay, how can we get
Yeah.
better? How can we expand in this place?" But you will see Africans in a community that has expanded. They've gone outside, and there's no connection. They're just on their own, living for themselves. There's no community unit where people are actually sitting down to have conversations of, okay, we've come out, we've seen the light. How can we take this light that we have seen back to our own nation to implement that in such a way that our community now starts to grow? I was talking about the Igbo apprenticeship system, and one of the things that is a way to build the economy, which is why I encourage it. Like I encourage it so much, where you sit under a master and you learn. And in that learning, there are so many other people that are learning with you. So those people automatically become your brothers. And then when
Oh,
you
that's
finish
good.
learning, you get settled, you expand. And then that person takes another person and teaches the person the craft, and then that generation expands. So you see that you have a long length of generation that never loses what to do. An auntie from the village will comfortably hand her son over to an uncle in the city because he knows that if this boy goes there, he will be treated well. He will see the light. He will come back with that light and come and develop the community that he has come from. You get? And that is only done because the man understands, oh, one name, I ain't with Igbo. There's that relationship. And there is no room for, oh, we are struggling, oh, governance for these people, oh, our own people. There's no demarcation. Everybody is fighting for one goal. But at the center of all those goals is that there is a language that connects us. You would see like a child is growing up in an African home, and the first thing that the person is learning is like the white man's culture. And UNESCO has done an improvement and said that there's a constant emphasis here for children to learn another culture. And because they are learning in another identity, they quickly lose the essence of what makes them them. And you know that education, is not just about the English that we speak. It's beyond the English. Your education, your mother tongue, your language is a human capital. You do know that? Like, it's a human capital, and human capital is what builds like systems. Is what builds economic power. Is what builds like productivity, and that productivity now channels to build a whole ecosystem where there's job opportunities, there's economic growth, there's increase in education. Where like there's no loopholes and gap holes where things are not functioning right, because there's now a whole identity of who a person is. So it's not just like, it's like the identification of our language helps us to also understand our own uniqueness. Africans have like so much gift. Our political system in the days of like, especially Igbo political system, is very unique and intricate. The balance of chiefs, kingsmen in making decisions is not just one person that just sits at the top and just decides that whatever is. There are people at the grassroots that they say there's power that they have. I read about the accounts of like some of like the archives of old, and I see like the Eastern chiefs and the contributions that they made in developing places like Abakaliki. I recently did a documentary with Ike National Foundation, and we were documenting Obekribe's story. And we had gone to like research to see like the changes that he had made, and some of the contributions that he mentioned is what brought the Abakaliki that we know today. And he is doing it from the grassroots. As an Igbo man with an opportunity on an Eastern Council, like as part of the Eastern Council region, and they will sit, like deliberate rules, talk about like things that are within their own community that are not working, and ways that if we put it together and every community is developed, we have a better Nigeria. And we start to think that, how were our forefathers able to do these things? But it was because they were so united with who they are. They were proud of their excellence, the little that they knew. I don't think that the white men did us any evil by coming to our land. I think that Nigerians and Africans did themselves a disservice by just adopting everything that they came with and then threw our own away.
You made a striking point right now.
Because
no, I'm listening to you.
So I think that we could have adopted their own system and said, okay, these people brought us technology, they brought us education. Now, how can we use their educational system to improve what we already have? Imagine if we maintain the system of apprenticeship and we maintain the system of politics that we had as African people, as Nigerians specifically. Imagine what our political system would have been like. Every unit would have had a say, as opposed to when just a few tribes and a few people are being represented. And because they are being represented and every other unit is not being heard, it's now as if the good is happening for these people and leaving out these people.
Yeah.
But if everybody was putting heads together and there was that oneness of like every tribe is represented, every community is represented, and not just that they're represented, their say actually matters because of the value system that we placed on ourselves as individuals, there will be a change that is being made. Our leaders will hear better, and not just hear better, they will understand that they are accountable to the people. So they're not just running a political system that is for them, they're running a political system that the people actually have a control of. They have a say on who sits. So if you're not doing the people well, you will never get to be a king and a leader who the people respect well enough to vote for in another tenure. You get? And so when you understand that these people wield so much power, and yes, they're able to put you where you are, you would do better. You hold yourself accountable because you know at the end of the day, if I don't do well, there's a chance that these people, there's no law for me, so automatically there's no, I don't have a say. And then imagine if we brought back the kind of system that the economic system that we had, we will be providing more opportunities where one person that has seen the light and has an idea builds on the idea with the materials and the resources that they have, and they bring in other people to come and learn. And now have systems in which there are so many people that are doing it in different ways and different means. So everybody is a people. And you have less youth that are saying, what do I do? And you reduce the crime rate, because I believe that one of the things that has increased the rate of our terrorism insecurity is because people are suffering. They don't have what to do. There's no there's nobody that is handing you the cake to say, oh, take it. There's nobody that is paving the way for things to be easy for you. So you are going to have to adjust to survive. And I don't blame them. If the government was doing what they were supposed to do, and there were more people that were not just concerned about get rich quick mentality, there's no sense of community amongst us. Well, what do you expect the person to do? At the end of the day, I have to survive, so I'm going to look for a means to survive on my own. But there was somebody that saw me going down the path and said, yes, and said, okay, come to the city. Let me teach you this craft. And then you can learn it and teach to your brothers. There's an expanded system. And one person is not just focused on packing the money and getting rich. There's a distribution of the wealth. The chain of oil, it gets the national cake, it gets to everybody.
Distribution of the wealth. I'm going to, okay, I have two questions to ask. And I'm going to say something about what you just said, the distribution of wealth. So, distribution of wealth. Okay, so while you were saying something, while you were talking, right? Something popped in my mind, which I want to ask you. He said we have 500 languages in Nigeria, per se, right? So, do you think that these different languages we have here in Nigeria can help us communicate what we want to do in such a way that it gets to the peak point of every individual who gets to hear it? Not getting to hear it, understand that this is my own core and response. Like I said to you, Africa cannot work. Nigeria cannot work. I know we put the blame on the government. I know governments have the role to play. And I know and I can understand the rules that every government in any nation has to play. And I believe, like what one of the presidents of the US said, ask not what your country can do for you, or what you can do for your country. But when it comes to Nigeria, I know we have a lot of questions. Okay, when the tax system came in, the early this year, so every individual has to pay tax, even the amount of money you make, and all of that. And the
Mm.
question that keep up in people's mind is, why would I pay a tax when the money we use are not being maximized? What is the essence of me
Mm-hmm.
paying tax? All I know, I pay my tax, but I don't see the result of paying my tax. I know these are things that people ask. As government are trying to create the system because they can government don't have money. The way they get money is
Mm.
through the tax they pay. And those tax are
Mm.
the award systems they use to run the government, do everything.
Mm.
And most of our revenues we get from our public industries, yes, they are so be paid to the government, right? You see those money that used to
Mm.
run day-to-day affairs of the nation. So when we have to
Yeah.
pay a certain amount of tax because these are our responsibility. And I believe paying tax is the responsibility of every individual. They are not supposed to force us to force us to pay tax. Paying tax is what we should do with our responsibility as the individual. Once you you are
Exactly.
obligated to pay your tax because you are giving out your money to the government you use to run the affairs of the nation. But let me just bring it down to what I said. Now, this belief saying that the diversity of our languages, we have over 500 languages in Nigeria, just Nigeria alone. And those languages have can help us towards being the right culture, can help us being the right approach. I think it's possible. You know what I said? If we lost a bit, if we can have so what before we get back to I feel about our culture because there are almost issues because we lost right. Yeah. Oh, I wish we were back. So guys, I think I've been spent many time, right? I believe when we get the right culture, the right systems, we can there's a lot we can do as a conservation. So I'm so particular about this so much that there's nothing we can do without understanding your roots. There is nothing on earth we can. If you I'm going to say most of us are not from this side of it. Oh, sorry. Just give me a minute. Okay, oh, we lost her already. So I just wish we were back. So I believe that there's so much we can actually do, right? When we have the right system, the right cultures around us. Because there's nowhere you can actually go without seeing the importance of having the cultures that shapes us. Because cultures are not just what identify us, they are who we are. And as a nation, as Africans, we must learn to embrace where we are from. And I think that we lost a lot. I'm speaking this because I know how these are shaped who I am right now. And I'm really struggling. I'm going to be very vulnerable with us right now. Because this thing that when things are not right, it becomes something, it becomes a system. This has been programmed in our mind that you should not identify yourself with our culture. Just like I know people are rising right now where we have started to value, value our. Can you hear me? Since you're back, oh my God, yeah, I'm so happy you have been back. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? When we begin to value who we are, begin to value our culture, begin to value ourselves. And can you hear me now? I think you're back. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, thank you so much. Can you turn on your video?
I didn't get the question.
Can you turn on your video? I want to see you.
My video is turned on. Can you see me?
I cannot see you.
Can you see me now?
I Yeah, I can see you right now. Sorry about that. About you.
No problem.
So I
Nigeria and their
was
network system.
saying, I pray that we get it right. Honestly, I pray that we have a system that works. So I was saying before the network interrupted us, all right? So
Okay.
because of
Yes.
our diversity of languages, because of how we have, from what you said, from your what you said, I'm not even aware that we have over 500 languages in Nigeria. I must admit that I don't know. So do you think that these languages have so much power to shift us from where we are to where we should be? Do you feel that they
I
have a
think that
power?
languages. I do.
Okay.
I do, and I say that to say that I don't see it as a burden. I see it as an advantage, a diversity that is very unique, because each language creates like a different perspective in a sense of
Okay.
understanding to shift us from point A to point B. So every language
Yeah.
comes with their own uniqueness. They come with their own
Okay.
conflict resolution
All
method.
right.
They come with their own indigenous medicine. They come with their own
Yeah.
environmental knowledge. They come
Okay.
with their own history and sort of like economic and like entrepreneurship or like system that works for them. And when everybody brings their own perspective, I know that when I started, we were talking about like everybody, if a leader was just the one filling the bucket from the ocean and he's using a
Yeah.
spoon, but if another language comes in and says, okay, this is the way we do it in our culture, I think that if we use that like a cup, it will hasten the steps. Another person comes in with their own diversity that their language has provided, and because like they operate like a different system, different languages, different cultures, different understanding, different perspectives, they come with their own insights on what gives them uniqueness, and they contribute it. If all of that is infused, we have this we have the an opportunity to grow a larger system than just countries that have one central language, one central culture, one central uniqueness. So there's no different streams that are flowing to make up the big ocean. There's no contributions from every angle. So I feel like for Africa, it's a blessing rather than like a curse of saying that there's no like oneness amongst us. I feel like it is something that makes us unique, and that if we harness it as we're supposed to, and we paid attention to the different things that makes us unique as like an individual, like whether it's ethnicity group, whether it's like different language, different communities, we would be able to create the system and the type of Africa that we want to exist. So yes, I do think that it has a lot to do. A lot of contributions can be made, because at the center of every language is probably their own ideas, probably their own
Mm.
indigenous like culture, indigenous medical system, indigenous way of resolving conflict, indigenous way of operating that their people understand. And if it works for them, and then you brought something that it's been tested in like Yoruba land, and the way they value like education, the way they value respect, and you integrated that in Hausa culture, and now Hausa people started to understand and adopt that same system of respect, that same system of education, where like education is like paramount, and they train their young people. You see that it has improved the educational system. Now you took
Yeah.
an Igbo man's hustle spirit, and you brought the idea of like we are always striving to do something, to look for like what can we improve. We see like
Mm.
palm wine. It's like, okay, how can we refine this? And that Igbo man takes that mentality of craft and education, and like making things out of little things, and creating it in such a system where poverty is eradicated, and an Igbo man always has money at hand, and gives it to a Yoruba man that is probably concerned about education, and the two systems mix. My education comes in, your hustle spirit comes in, the craft that comes in, and we refine it. That's a big ecosystem that is formed. And then people get to have more opportunities, more jobs are established for young people. So it's like every language creates its own diversity and perspective. And then when it's centered together as a unit and everybody pours in, it becomes a big ocean that overflows. So yeah, I definitely think that
Okay.
there's a lot that can be done.
I have two more questions to the end of this section. Okay, this has to do with you personally, right? When and how do you begin to develop passion for cultures and languages? I know you studied law, and I don't know the aspect of
Yeah.
law you are practicing. I know law is diverse, right? There, I will not,
Mhm.
I can't mention because I'm not that one of you. So, but I've heard quite a lot of persons say this is the specialty in law they are doing. When and how, when did you began to have this passion for African culture, per se, cultures, because the way you speak out of passion, it speaks so much about I can feel the energy in your talking. When do you start? When do you discover this is something you love and you want to speak out so loudly for people to hear?
Okay, so if I get you right, you were asking how did I discover this part? Is that
Yeah,
what you're
this
saying?
part. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So the law that I practice is more of the academic side of law. So is the
Okay.
research part, researching like policies and gaps that exist in laws and systems that have been made, and finding ways to which we can improve it by contributing to the conversation. So that's more of the aspect
Okay.
of law that I'm related, not particularly practice, but reforms and policies when it comes to like writing, whether it's like through research. That is the aspect of law that I practice. Now, I came out of school and I had opportunity of working with a non-governmental organization, and I still work with that non-governmental organization. And I had the opportunity of being one of the people that was invited to do a creative writing series where Obasikele Choba, who is a prince, got to tell the story of his father, King Gobekwi,
Yeah.
His Royal Majesty Obekribe. And, just sitting in that room, and I've always been somebody that is passionate about like my roots and culture, but never to the extent that, like, at some point in my life, I feel like the bushness that was created, and because I didn't want to feel out of the circle for talking about this, and also being able to align like my Christian beliefs to that, to being so interested in culture, I just decided that, you know what, let's let this area of life rest. But being in that room and seeing a man of that caliber with that type of like educational achievement, being so embedded in his roots, and then he tells the story of his father, and I discovered that what has made him him is the fact that he grew up with so much connection to his roots, because his father made that room for where he could, he's so centered with himself and who he is as an Igbo man, who he is as a person, because of the knowledge of where he comes from. And it sparked a thought in my head, and I had gone back that day, and I was just like, I sat down and I had a conversation with my dad, and I was just like asking questions about like where I'm from. And I told my dad, I was like, did you notice that after some time, like, there was a phase of time where you stopped having to tell us stories about, what happened, like our ancestors, the things that our fathers had done, our traditions, which is a story that I grew up around as a child. And I felt like that was why I was so passionate about like Igbo dance, like Igbo presentation in school. And then it got to a time where I was looking like the weird kid. Like, nobody wanted you to be speaking like, that's vernacular, like, you're so archaic in nature. But being in that room and, seeing that and seeing the impact he has made as somebody I admire so much, that is also in the academic field, that is like a scholar, it centered me in such a nice way. Like, it was like a callback. When something has been dead in you and lying silent, and then you stay in a particular room and then you hear somebody and you catch the vision of that person, and it's like, okay, I can let my life shine in this space. So that was a turning point for me, that gave room to now say, you know what, I'm going to be bold with my opinions. I'm going to be bold with, making sure and understand, like that deep understanding that this thing is part of who I am. And if I'm going to become the person that I'm hoping to be, to contribute to the change that is being made in Nigeria and in Africa as a whole, I needed to identify with myself. I needed to identify with where I come from. I needed to identify with my roots. I needed to, speak about it so that even more people get to identify with that. Because as we identify and as we are united in that cause, we are able to shine more light. So that was the turning point for me.
Okay, by God's grace, right? Because this is not just this platform is when we have this super meeting anywhere around the world, in Africa, I'm gonna bring you on board. So
I'm getting ready to be dragged now.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to be dragged.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. So, this is my final question, right? Well, they're gonna have you again on this call. But the area that we're going to focus on is the media, because I know media has shaped a lot about us. Media have given a narrative about who we are, if you have notes. And it's going to be around how we can really shape our culture through the media, how we can share our stories, who we are from the media space. So this is my final question before we call the wrap, right? What's your final words to everyone who is trying so hard to identify their culture and their language? What do you think could be the best approach for them to follow to get to their roots? Not just get into your root, but there's something about you knowing something and embracing what you know. I might get access, like you met your dad, after you listen to the king and everything, you met your dad, then your dad tells you, look at where you're from, look at this. You embraced it. You don't just knew what you knew. It has to become part of you. So how do people struggling to identify their roots, get to know, and not just knowing, but embrace those, like your final words to people who, not your final word though, because I'm going to bring it back again. So you're going to be a second part of this conversation. This is a third part, right? If you have to, because if you don't unpack a lot, there's so much. This could be a 3 hours conversation. It could be like 4 hours conversation.
Conversation.
So because there's a lot we need
No,
to talk about.
as long as like culture, Africa, like tradition, you can keep me on a chart for as long as like
Oh wow.
as long as
Um,
yes, like it's something I would never.
wonderful.
I feel like there's a joy that incites in me, and it's like you're fulfilling purpose. I
I
feel like
see.
I'm connected to not just my vision, but people like 1,000 years. Like I'm connected to a legacy,
Yeah.
and I'm drawing strength from what they have done, the impact that they have made to become like the person
Yeah.
that I am building to be. So when I
Yeah.
when I say, oh, I'm so passionate about it, it's not just because, oh, it's just culture. I'm connecting to
Mhm.
lifelines, great
Mhm.
men and women that have walked this path, and I'm
Yeah.
using the materials and the wisdom that they have already tested to improvise in my modern day era. So that's like giving you secrets to succeed, so that you don't need to go through the whole route of experience. Which if Israelites knew, I mean, they probably wouldn't have been in the wilderness for as long as they did. So
Yeah, that's true. Oh, I'm gonna bring you back. Like no, just have once I get your DM, once I know it's time and I go to your DM,
mm,
just know that this is what I'm coming to your DM for. Because it's quite a long journey. And I believe
yeah,
every step takes us to where we are going to. This is not like a snap of what we want to do with this platform.
true.
It's more like a bit of what I see this person could be. Well, I was talking to a friend this evening. I told him, okay, I was asking about a studio where we can actually have this conversation. But most challenges and most people who I bring on board are not within the space I am. But we find a way how can we bring this, because not just this conversation, like I said to him, there are days will come where every time we have this conversation, it will be streamed on every media platform, every channel, every television channel will be streaming. So people are going like, I'm
Yes.
watching the news. This is going to be like people, because these are standard and these people need to get to listen, to hear every single day. Because most of the things
The,
yeah, I know the smart yeah is you enter the area of the smartphone has become the new media and the new television, right? But I still believe that people who need to get this and their tips, that everything we are doing have this conversation has to be on the face of people who need to. So say I was just talking to him about all of that. And you are part of you are just know it. Just write it down somewhere. Know it. I'm gonna bring it back. Not just on this call, even when it's a physical conversation, no matter where you are in this world, you are going to travel back.
I would love to be
Going to
back.
travel.
Just send a DM. Send a DM. I would definitely be available. I will make myself available. Honestly, I have enjoyed the conversation, and it has also like given me food for thought, because I'm thinking now as like we're conversing, I'm like, okay, this is what you could do differently from what you're already doing.
Mm,
This is the way you could
mm,
improve, not just to like aid your voice, but to make the system better. Because for me, when I rediscovered this passion of mine, one of the things that helped me was also being surrounded by people who, they are so connected to their roots. I got to meet like a lot of people. I got to be at a lot of cultural events, and I have also started to like program my social media platforms to be able to give me things that are centered on my history and just
oh
learning
wow.
the culture, learning, yes. So it's like from the browsings that you do, there are not a lot of materials on the internet. Like there are gaps in like the knowledge, but you will see people that are talking about the things that you need to hear. And it's just if you become very intentional about it, and as a young person you just want to learn, you're curious to learn, it's that you go up. That technology that you're using to like don't scroll on TikTok, go and search for them, their platforms. And then you listen to news. One of the news channels I like so much is Zakia TV. And I identify with them because they talk about like a lot of centered things that even though the world is like a global stage, they're very intricate in like Igbo culture. And so when I listen to like their documentaries, I listen to their podcasts, I listen to their news, it refines me with where I am. And I don't just do that, I read books. Get a book. Especially now in the digital era where you don't necessarily need a hardcover. You can get like a digital copy and read and just, ingest all of that. And the thing is that you think that you're just doing something, but before you know it, it becomes like a conversation. You become very, like your mindset is changing from the way you present yourself to your mannerism to since coming back and just like programming like just my social media page alone, aside just reading and being in rooms here, the things that I've learned, it has not just changed like even the way that I speak. It has changed the way that I represent myself. There's self-awareness in me. It has built my confidence because now, like, you can't just tell me who I am. I know. So there's that confidence where there's no confusion. There's no like struggle with like inferiority complex of like, oh, I'm balancing what's my passion or what should I do? Because I'm learning and have found my path. I've seen people of that okay they've struggled with this and how they were able to move from that. And just like identifying with who I am has given me a grounding that I'm no longer confused about like myself, my vision, and what I'm building. So I think that if more young people invested the time that they spent on the regular gist of what the country is doing and what the country is not doing, and all of the systems, and actually started to digest from information, feed themselves with informations of what has happened in the past, their grassroots. You may not get all of the details from like the internet, like from like the social space of like just like browsing. But there's a lot of content, like a lot of content creators on Instagram now that are focused on just educating like Igbo people on their culture, educating like Yoruba people on their culture. You're seeing articles. So if you browse about it consistently, automatically the algorithm will start to feed you things that yes. And it's a way to start. And you can start from there. Another way is that you can also try to, put yourself in communities that, encourage that. And it's one of the things that I'm building right now is to build like an app where people could, just not just like learn about their culture, like different cultures, and learn like how to speak. Because I grew up in a family of Igbo interpreters, and I myself am learning how to speak now, like how to speak more fluently, and not just speak but write fluently.
Yeah.
And building that app where like people like of different languages could come and like learn, and not just like learn but have a community. So you can connect to somebody within your community from wherever you are in like the world. It's my little contribution to the space. So let's see how that goes.
I'm really grateful. When is it coming out?
It's at the incubation stage. We built like the surface. It's called Olo. So it's like sort of like a language kind of app. It's called Olo. So we're at the incubation stage where we built like the face of this thing. But those like the launching, the coding and the programming. So what I'm doing is I'm applying for as many incubation funds as I can find on the internet to get funding to be able to like launch and be able to build like a proper system, because there's still like bugs and interface within the system that creates like a bit of like diversity. So but the structure has been built, and like I'm hoping that I get the funding that I need to be able to scale that up. And just beyond that, like taking through a documentary series that is being planned, where we go around different communities to like document like their stories, so that these truths, like the oral truths, how you sit under a tree when we were growing up and have like the akukifo that they would do, tales of my life
Yeah.
on that, and you just like taking those people's stories and documenting it so that future generations can go on the internet and they read about this, whether it's in their own languages, in Igbo, Efik, Yoruba, Hausa languages, and you can also like watch and just hear the stories from people of old and just see what they are doing. It's our own way and little contribution to growing like the system to make sure that everybody who wants to get educated can get educated. So
Okay.
yes, let's
Thank you once
let's hope.
again.
Fingers crossed that we
For
now that I've said it, I actually have to yeah.
I'm grateful. I'm really grateful for our time. You spent more than an hour talking. I know that if you had more time, you could have spent a longer hour talking. I'm really grateful. Definitely,
Definitely.
I'm gonna have you back. I'm gonna have you back for this conversation.
No
So yeah,
problem.
I'm getting on
I'll be
that
happy
back.
to be back.
So I'm gonna have you on this
Okay.
conversation later. I'm gonna have you on this. I don't know when but it shouldn't be long, right? I'm super grateful. Sorry, I will do it. I'm trying to. Suppose I have another call by now, but we coming in and all of that. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for making your time. Thank you for
Thank you
sharing
for
from your
having me.
experience.
I enjoyed myself. Thank you
Jesus, thank
so much
you
for having
so
me. And to
much.
think that this is the first time I was on the other end of the seat.
Um, well, you have more time to talk because I believe we share common value and interests. So we'll have
Yeah,
more to talk
yeah,
about. Thank you so much.
definitely. Thank you for having me.
Have a very good night. See
You too.
you. Thank you so much.
You too. Bye. Bye.
Okay. All right.